Breaking news! The Miami Dolphins are heading into Week 18 with everything on the line. Mike McDaniel is confident and believes the Dolphins will make the playoffs. Dude, seriously, I believe so too. Today we have an important game against the New York Jets, and while this may seem like a straight-up game, there's a lot more at stake here than just a win-loss record. If you also believe the Dolphins will win this game, hit the like button. If possible, comment something like, "Go Dolphins! Let's make the playoffs!" Many fans don't believe that, but I'm going to set my expectations high, and every passionate fan should do the same. We know that a playoff spot will be very difficult, but it is still possible. Now, there are other obstacles in the way. First, let's talk about the game itself. The Dolphins are traveling to MetLife Stadium, and the conditions will be brutal. A polar vortex is sweeping the country, and temperatures in New York are expected to be freezing. We're talking about a game potentially played in the tens or even single digits, with a chance of snow. That's not exactly ideal for a team hailing from sunny South Florida, but the Dolphins have been through tough times before. Now, the Jets. Let's call it what it is. This is not the Jets team anyone expected at the start of the season. Sauce Gardner is out, and Aaron Rodgers, he's a shadow of his former self. The Jets are already out of playoff contention, so they have little to play for other than pride. But pride games are tricky. Teams with nothing to lose can often play spoiler, and the Jets would love nothing more than to ruin the Dolphins' playoff hopes. The Dolphins, on the other hand, have a lot at stake. They've been chasing a winning season, and a victory on Sunday would secure a 9-8 record. But here's where things get complicated. Miami's starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is out again. That means Tyler Huntley will take the reins. And while Huntley is a capable backup, let's not sugarcoat it. This is a step down from what the Dolphins are used to with Tua. And to make things worse, there's uncertainty around the availability of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, two of Miami's biggest offensive weapons. That's a major concern. So what's the prediction for this game? The odds are slightly in favor of the Dolphins, with analysts giving them about a 51% chance of winning. It's essentially a coin flip, but if you ask me, I'm not picking against Miami in this one. Despite the injuries and the cold weather, I believe the Dolphins have what it takes to get the job done. My score prediction? Dolphins 24, Jets 14. It's a weird score, I know, but it feels right given the circumstances. Expect a run-heavy game plan, given the cold and Miami's banged-up offensive line. But here's the bigger picture, playoffs. This is what really matters. The Dolphins' playoff chances are slim, ranging anywhere from 16% to 31%, depending on which scenarios you believe. The key game to watch? Broncos versus Chiefs. If the Broncos lose, Miami's chances increase. But here's the catch. The Chiefs may rest their starters since they've already secured a playoff spot. And if the Chiefs aren't playing to win, the Broncos could easily walk away with a victory, dashing the Dolphins' hopes. It's frustrating because, on paper, Miami has had a solid season. But when you're relying on other teams to lose to get into the playoffs, it's never a good position to be in. The reality is, the Dolphins could beat the Jets, finish 9-8, and still miss out on the postseason. That's the harsh truth of the situation. It all comes down to whether the Broncos can stumble. And let's be honest, Denver hasn't exactly been consistent this season. Could they lose? Absolutely. Will they? That's the million-dollar question. Looking at the Chiefs, there's another layer to this. They're expected to rest key players, including Patrick Mahomes. And while that seems like a smart move to keep players healthy, it could backfire. Too much rest can disrupt a team's rhythm heading into the playoffs. The Chiefs would have a 25-day gap between their last meaningful game and their first playoff matchup. That's a long time. And Mahomes hasn't been playing at his usual MVP level lately, which could be a concern for Kansas City fans. Now, here's the personal side of this story. As a Dolphins fan, I want to believe in this team. I want to think they can make the playoffs, but I have to be realistic. Right now, my optimism only goes so far. I think Miami beats the Jets, but I don't think the Broncos lose to the Chiefs. And that's where the season will likely end for the Dolphins. It's disappointing, but that's the reality. If the Dolphins do make the playoffs, though, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. And let's be real, I wouldn't mind having a little egg on my face if it means Miami sneaks into the postseason. But there's another side to this, too. If they make it, I'll have to renew my YouTube TV subscription to keep up with the games. And honestly, that's not something I'm looking forward to. My bill is due on Monday, and if Miami doesn't make it, I'm canceling. Simple as that. I'd rather put that money towards something else, maybe MegaCon tickets or something fun. At the end of the day, though, the Dolphins' playoff hopes rest on more than just their performance. They need help from other teams, and that's never an ideal situation. I want to hear from you. Do you think the Dolphins will make the playoffs? Do you believe they can go into Buffalo and actually win a playoff game if they get there? Because to me, if they make it, it's likely a one-and-done situation. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Will this season end in heartbreak, or is there a glimmer of hope left left for Miami. Let's talk about it. The one thing that keeps lingering in the back of my mind is how the Dolphins ended up in this situation to begin with. Let's rewind a bit. This was a season filled with promise. Miami had moments where they looked like legitimate contenders, especially early on. Remember that electric start? The offense was clicking, Tua was playing at an MVP level, and the defense, despite some early struggles, was holding its own. Fast forward to now, and we're talking about barely scraping into the playoffs. What happened? Well, injuries played a massive role. Tua's absence has been a game changer. His chemistry with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle was unstoppable at the beginning of the season. But without him, the offense has struggled to find the same rhythm. Backup quarterbacks can only do so much, and while Tyler Huntley is serviceable, he's not the same threat as Tua. And then there's the issue with the offensive line, which has been banged up for weeks. When you can't protect your quarterback, it limits your entire game plan. And let's not forget about the defense. They've had moments of brilliance, but there's been inconsistency, especially in crucial moments. The secondary has been hit hard by injuries, and while some players have stepped up, it hasn't been enough to completely shut down opposing offenses. The Jets may not be a high-powered offense, but this is still the NFL. Any team can win on any given Sunday, and the Dolphins need to be sharp if they want to avoid a letdown. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the coaching staff. Mike McDaniel has brought a new energy to this team, and you can't deny that he's changed the culture in Miami. But there have been some questionable decisions throughout the season, especially with in-game adjustments and clock management. These little mistakes add up over time, and they've cost the Dolphins in close games. McDaniel is still a young head coach, and there's hope that he'll continue to grow into the role. But for now, those growing pains have been evident. Looking ahead to Sunday's game, the Dolphins need to focus on what they can control. Forget about what's happening in the Broncos-Chiefs game for a moment. Miami needs to take care of business against the Jets. That means establishing the run early, even if it hasn't been their strength this season. The cold weather is going to make it tough to rely solely on the passing game, especially with Huntley at quarterback. The offensive line needs to step up and create lanes for the running backs, and the defense needs to pressure the Jets quarterback, whoever that may be, into making mistakes. The Jets, despite their struggles, are still a division rival. Division games are always tricky, no matter what the records are. The Dolphins can't afford to overlook this opponent, especially with so much on the line. They need to come out aggressive, set the tone early, and leave no doubt that they're the better team. It's not just about winning, it's about making a statement. A 24-14 win would be nice, but if they can dominate from start to finish, it would send a message to the rest of the league that Miami is still a team to be reckoned with. So, here's where I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Dolphins have what it takes to beat the Jets and sneak into the playoffs? And if they do, how far do you realistically think they can go? Are we looking at a Cinderella story, or will it be a quick one-and-done exit? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from the real fans, the ones who have stuck with this team through thick and thin. We've been through a lot this season, and no matter what happens on Sunday, one thing is clear. This Dolphins team is building something. It may take a little more time, but the foundation is there. Now it's about turning potential into results. Let's see what happens.